The GM search with the Chargers is part of the reason why a lot of people have Jim Harbaugh as the favorite. Four candidates with apparently with ties to Jim Harbaugh, so you could pair somebody maybe that he would be comfortable working with, and we know that that would probably be a plus over maybe someone he's not comfortable working with or isn't comfortable working with him, like we saw in San Francisco. But Ed Dodds interviewed yesterday. He's the assistant GM of the Colts. Him and Harbaugh overlapped for a year in 2003 with the then Oakland Raiders. Dodds was a low-level front office employee. Harbaugh was the quarterback's coach for that year before he moved on to San Diego. Joe Hortiz, director of player personnel for the Ravens, works obviously with John Harbaugh. Ian Cunningham worked with John Harbaugh with the Ravens several years ago. And then Brandon Brown, assistant GM for the Giants. Not the Michigan beat writer, Brandon Brown, but assistant GM for the Giants. And he has some sort of connection to Harbaugh, apparently, according to Ohio State fan and SI's Albert Breer, who seems desperately to want Jim Harbaugh to go to the NFL, by the way. They haven't worked together that I'm aware of, but I guess there's some sort of connection there. So I think if you're a Michigan fan, you're looking for what is going to signal, the potential Jim Harbaugh hire being imminent. Some of that would have to do with what they do at GM. If they hire one of these guys, especially Dodds, who seems to be the guy with the most buzz that they'd pair with Harbaugh, then I think that would be kind of the next step.
Yeah, and I think, people need to remember too is that part of the reason that he's even at Michigan and wasn't with the 49ers past the date that he was is the power dynamic was a struggle there with ownership, with the GM. And that's, it's clear that, yeah, I mean, I wrote this yesterday in a mailbag that I did, and we've talked about it here as well. When you're a guy that is as devout to the game of football that he is, there is no grander pursuit than going after a Vince Lombardi trophy. And there's only 32 of those jobs. So, the arguments, oh, well, the Chargers, they're just a tenant in someone else's building. It doesn't matter. They have a franchise quarterback. They've got, I think at least a decent enough core of guys. And, look at our hometown Detroit Lions. It doesn't, if you have the right people in place, it doesn't take that long to flip things around and put yourself in the conversation in the NFL. So it's got to be the perfect situation for him. I think that's clear at this point. I think for him too. Yeah, I mean the GM hires being hand in hand, having everything kind of work out the way it does, and that's all part of the process here. And this is my only wish for him and for Michigan if he does go elsewhere, is that I hope that all of this stuff about the noise with the assurances he wants, not feeling supported, not feeling wanted, I hope that is just noise, because you want to be able, like, if he's going to leave, you want it to be a celebration of what he accomplished, not this is the reason, this is XYZ why he's not here. Because clearly, if it was so easy for him to just leave and get an NFL job, he probably could have done that a few years ago. So, there's going to be, maybe that's the optimist in me. But I do if he does leave, I suspect there's going to be some hurt feelings on both sides that might take a few years to cool off and come over. But don't forget that 9 years is a long time, and they reached the mountaintop. So for me, I mean, it's just a wait and see at this point. 2 years ago, when he did what he did with the Vikings, that was kind of where you felt like, oh man, it kind of feels like they have a window to keep attacking here. This really would hurt momentum. Whereas now, I think that they're much better, set up to withstand him potentially leaving than they were 2 years ago, because you have a built-in replacement in Sharon Moore. Talk about setting Vegas odds. I don't even know if I'd post a board of odds. I think if Jim Harbaugh leaves, Sharon Moore is your next head coach. So, and there's been a very, there's been a very careful path or dynamic to where it seems like he has set up this dynamic among his coaching and support staff to where if someone leaves, someone else moves up. And I think they're about as well prepared as they can be, given that it's January 18th, than they would have been otherwise. So again, we'll see what happens. I'm still on that boat. We're not going to quite, I'm still expecting us to do a spring football press conference where he's there, but it's clear that, it's kind of Chargers are, I won't say bust right now, but it does feel like it's trending that way. And if it does, we'll attack it and see what happens.
So do you think he goes then, or is he here in the spring for that press conference?
Something tells there's a plot twist coming. You've said this before.
There always is.
With everything with Jim Harbaugh, nothing ever plays out to its logical conclusion or completion. So to me, no one revels more in the awkward. No one operates better in the awkward than Jim Harbaugh does. And what would be more awkward than not having a contract extension that hasn't been signed yet for the last few months, heading into a new era of the program where all these rumors are out there about your relationship with Ward Manuel. And I don't know. It just, I still have a hard time believing it's anyone but Michigan, because everything that's happened with him over the last 3 years would suggest that he was done and he's cooked and he's leaving or going somewhere, and he hasn't yet. So, I mean, it's 50-50, but I still lean towards him being back.
Yeah, I don't want to put a number on it. At this point, as we sit here today, and obviously it could change, I would guess that he leaves. But like you said, it may not be the logical, like, what if it's not the Chargers? What if it's another job, in a couple weeks or something like that pops up and he emerges as a candidate, or he does come back to Michigan? That's the thing. I don't think this is a total foregone conclusion, because Jim Harbaugh is extremely unpredictable. Even when he thinks he knows what he's doing, sometimes he changes his mind. We know that going back to 2011 when he almost took the Michigan job before they hired Brady Hoke. So you never know with Jim Harbaugh.